You've heard the stories about the Loch Ness Monster and the legendary Kraken, but have you heard of the Lake Michigan sea serpent? Most likely you have not. Picture yourself on the waters of Lake Michigan, early before sunrise. In the depths, you begin to see a shadowy figure emerging, getting closer and closer to your boat. Suddenly, a burst of water shoots up from the surface, and before you have time to panic, the shadow vanishes. Join us in the first installment of our Cryptid series as we explore the fascinating tales of the Lake Michigan sea serpent.
The Lake Michigan sea serpent is estimated to be between 30 to 60 feet long, her body undulating with an eerie grace beneath the water's surface. With a slithery form and a cranium that resembles a fearsome reptilian predator, those that have witnessed her dark gargantuan silhouette have been stricken by fear and curiosity. Scientists speculate she might be an enormous cousin of the sea lamprey, but whispers among locals tell of a far more terrifying possibility. A monstrous sea creature, ancient and vengeful, lurking in the depths, waiting to surface and reclaim her domain. On August 3, 1867, a newspaper by the name of the Daily Ohio Statesman reprinted a story from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which spoke of two men having encounters with what could only be described as a giant whale within the lake. The first man, a Captain McBride, spoke of how while crossing the lake in the early morning, he caught sight of a giant fish that resembled a whale. He claimed the beast made a significant noise and even blew water into the air with a puff from what he assumed was a blowhole.
Additional evidence within this article for the existence of a creature in Lake Michigan points to the discovery of a large fish washed up on the banks of the lake, which appeared to have been bitten in half by a large unknown creature. It was assumed that the culprit was somehow part of the shark family due to the appearance of the bite marks as well as the size of the fish made into a meal. It ends with stating that those who have seen the beast describe it as being well over 16 feet long, with a large head and capacious jaws. It made sure to point out that it was bigger than any sturgeon which has ever been seen and appeared fully capable of destroying a boat with ease.
August 16, 1867, the Manitowoc Pilot shared an article from the Chicago Tribune in which they speak about a sighting that took place on the 5th. The story starts with the statement that Lake Michigan is inhabited by a vast monster, part fish and part serpent. It appeared roughly 5 times the length of his own boat, around 40 feet. The article goes on to speak about a sighting made by a man named Jos Mulke while out in the vicinity of Hyde Park, Chicago. Mr. Mulke claimed that the monster was witnessed about 1.5 miles from shore and that it appeared roughly 5 times the length of his own boat, around 40 feet. When it appeared in the Elk Advocate from Pennsylvania. The monster then makes its third appearance in print, August 29, 1867, almost 2 weeks later. The monster, which was now being described as being anywhere from 20 to 50 feet long, was said to have started making regular appearances to those working on ships within the lake. Crews described seeing a creature that was serpentine in appearance and looked as thick as a barrel. The creature would keep mostly to itself on the surface, thrashing the water into a foam with its tail, but would duck quickly under the surface every time a vessel would approach it.
Fast forward to 2019, and the Lake Michigan sea serpent once again became the opus for conversations across the region. This time, spread to mass audiences through the power of the internet. A serpent-like figure was spotted off the coast of South Haven, Michigan. Posted to Facebook by Tim Wenzel, the live camera footage shows a black, snake-like figure slither out from the water and under the pier. Almost 200 years later, people show the same excited sentiment to seeing a possible monster as those onlookers showed in the original newspaper stories.
So what'd you think of that video, Liam?
Yeah, after reading through some of the comments, it does kind of
Look like some type of tarp.
it does. Yeah.
You know, I when I first came across that footage, I didn't think it could be a tarp. I thought it was like, oh, that's some big eel. But then when someone posted that picture of the eel, or I mean the tarp,
yeah, someone found it.
and then I looked at the video footage again, it kind of looked like it was just like moving with the waves, like crashing through the pier.
Right, because it doesn't look like it has any life. Like it looked kind of lifeless. Like the waves were really just causing it to move.
Yeah, and like the quality of the footage, it looks like it couldn't really be faked. You know, like someone like edited it in or whatever, or like someone's like pulling it with a rope.
There was a point that the camera really started to shake, and I was like, "Is this just somebody like really doctoring the footage, or not?" But apparently, it was like 40-mile-an-hour gusts were going on. So
Yeah, and if it's a live camera, I don't know. Like, whenever you find live footage, it's always like shitty like quality.
always,
It's never like the best. And I don't know how like intensive it is to have like very good quality live footage, but
yeah, I'd have to imagine it's pretty rough. Just one on like the pricing of the equipment and having to like have the direct line to it the whole time. But
what do you think they saw then? Like not in the modern
in like
footage, but,
1860s,
yeah, like what were they seeing that was this monstrous thing that could be blowing water? Because some people saying sturgeon.
Yeah,
but they don't blow.
no, they don't really have a hole on like the top of their head. So I don't hate the idea that at one point there was actually like a massive serpent in Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan and all of the Great Lakes are only like 10,000 years old, relatively young. So there's a good chance that we could have been exposed to some sort of animal that came at the beginning of like that life cycle of that ecosystem.
Interesting.
And you think of like the Earth, those animals that came at the beginning of the Earth's ecosystem were like massive dinosaurs and crocodiles and all that stuff.
But that was like, so I remember reading that thing that you brought up, the 10,000 years old thing, and like Lake Michigan, I forgot what the other really big lake is.
Superior.
Lake Superior. They filled up to their max level where they're at only about like 3,000 years ago.
3,000, yeah.
And the dinosaurs were like millions.
They were
years ago.
millions, yeah. So maybe that analogy wasn't the best, but I mean, you
never know because like the ocean's unexplored. You don't know what's down there,
right?
I mean,
and there is ways to get from the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
So maybe it was some sort of whale or shark or
whale shark.
Whale shark.
It's a whale shark.
I think it probably was a whale shark. Yeah.
Because I mean, let's see. It comes out of the water, but they kept saying it's like a slithery, like type of like look to it.
Very sinewy,
sinuous,
sinuous.
It looked like a sine wave.
Yeah, I think.
in those like stories, they kept getting bigger and bigger. Like, oh, this one was 30 feet. This one was 40 feet. This one was got to be 50 feet.
Classic fish stories, right? You always got to increase the size every time you tell the story. I thought one of the stories was kind of funny that some of the guys that saw it after that, they said they were going to give up drinking. They were like, I'm giving up liquor. I just saw like a massive sea serpent. I don't know if I was hammered and happened to see it or if it was real.
Well, it's like when you see Bigfoot, like a lot of the time you're like freaking out and you don't know what you're actually seeing. Like, I don't know what Bigfoot is. It's like a bear or like something really big that you're confusing as Bigfoot.
Yeah, it could be like just the way that the trees and like some like shrubs are placed.
Like what is the biggest thing to live in Lake Michigan?
I think it's the sturgeon. It's either the sturgeon, some giant sea lampreys, those little eel-like things, which from what you and I were talking about, seems like it could be very possible. Or like massive lake trout or like king salmon or something.
Because, back in the day, I'm guessing the fishing operations aren't as massively produced as they are like now. So you could probably have like some world record fish in there, and maybe they saw like a sturgeon from far away that was insanely huge.
Yeah. Just surfacing on the water. But then you think about sturgeon, they're pretty like light colored, which might make sense for some of the stories that we read where the tail is pretty light, the head's pretty light, but that dark body and that like slithery figure, it really just points to some sort of giant like eel, giant sea lamprey, something like that. So there's been other massive stories and cryptids that have come out of large bodies of water, right? Loch Ness Monster, basically everything associated with the ocean, the Kraken, like you were about to say, colossal squid, Moby Dick,
big whale, yep.
And then even like large lakes like Pressy in Lake Superior, Champ in Lake Champlain, just these massive fish that I think just being associated with the fish story is so funny because like that's such a trope where you always like increase the size of the fish when you say you caught it, and that's just probably helping to like these stories. So do you think at one point it was real?
Unfortunately, I have to say no. It's hard to believe for me when like you hear all the Bigfoot stories and like none of it really ever makes sense to you, or like UFO stories, like in a day and age right now where that live camera footage is the best we've got.
Yeah.
It's like there has to be something better.
Yeah.
Or like it's always in the mind of doubt. Like if you see like a skinwalker video or like a scary video in the woods and it looks like it was Slender Man, and it just it verges on that line where maybe if I saw it for myself, I believe it, but since I saw it on the internet, it's kind of hard to believe.
And I think that line's going to get even more blurred now that we've got like AI tools that can make pretty quality videos.
It's almost going to be like if you don't see it with yourself, like your own eyes. I mean, it's always been like that. Like
it always has. Yeah.
Like someone tells you a story, like that's bullshit.
Yep. And only in the past like 30 years have you been able to like take out your phone or type on a computer and Google it.
Yeah.
So a lot of these cryptids and these stories that originate from like way back, it's so hard to like give them any truth.
But I also like on any like plane trips that I've been on, when you go over Lake Michigan, it is so massive.
Massive.
I can completely see that if you're, I don't know if like you can really catch any fish all the way out in the middle versus like, you know, closer to shore where probably more of the fish are located at.
Yeah.
Like maybe if like you're just traveling like on a shipping container, like going across Lake Michigan, I could see how you get disoriented and you might see something that, you know, you didn't really see.
For sure. Like a log just floating out there. I mean, I think
Lincoln log.
A Lincoln
a giant ass Lincoln log.
Lake Michigan is the deepest of the Great Lakes. And it gets incredibly cold. That doesn't really help for some sort of like reptilian creature living in it, because the cold blood would most likely, that wouldn't kind of jive well with them. But with how deep it is, you get like a little cave underneath the water somewhere. It's like, I mean, it's like Lake Loch Ness. Maybe something could be in there.
There's no doubt in my mind that there's something we haven't discovered, but it's hard to believe that it's the sea serpent.
Yeah.
The legendary sea serpent.
Definitely. One more question. Was there like a reason that you wanted to start with this creature?
I thought for our upstart on the cryptid series, I was told by our guest Marco that there's a cryptid for every state in the United States. And since we live in this wonderful corn country of Illinois, that we should start with a cryptid that represented Illinois. Even though Lake Michigan, you know, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, I think it's hard to say. I feel like people in Michigan might say Lake Michigan's theirs, and they have they have the right logic. In
Yeah,
there.
they've got the name. It's fair.
But for some reason, going to Chicago, being from Illinois, I think, oh, Lake Michigan's ours.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you're watching Lake Michigan or Lake Michigan,
Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan. There's a CH in there.
There is. I mean, it makes sense.
But if you guys enjoyed this series, though, let us know which state we should do next, or if there's a cryptid of interest you'd like for us to explore.
Definitely. Yeah, we're willing to do any of them, really. Super excited about this video series moving in the future. I think it's going to be great.
I hope you enjoyed the produced energy of it in the beginning of this episode with the more recognizable podcast format that we have been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and keep an eye out for the post show, episode 60 of Grandma's Pillbox, where we're going to talk about what we just did and kind of just have a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Like, subscribe, buy our merch, and see you in the next video.
And have a great day. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.